Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. There's some great news for new home buyers, and I want to talk about that. I'll go through a couple of encouraging signs in the home buying market if you're trying to buy a home. Despite what you've heard, there is some great news out there. So first, I'll start off with talking about first-time home buyer status. This is if you have not owned a home in the past 36 months. So if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you have, more correctly, if you have first-time home buyer status, because you can recover that if you go for 36 months without owning anything, say you're renting for 3 years. If you have first-time home buyer status, there are a lot of benefits to that in terms of buying a home, and I want to go through what those are. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening, even if you own an existing home and you're thinking about buying another home and moving. And I'll point those out as we go through here. But for first-time home buyers, you haven't owned a home for 36 months. And this is kind of interesting because actually this is what my wife and I did when we started in real estate right out of college. We bought a 9-unit apartment building. It was a foreclosed bank-owned property. We did not live in any of the 9 units. They were already rented. So we were living in an apartment at the time we bought that building, and we continued to live in an apartment. So we actually bought, and this is, by the way, that purchase is the very first video on my channel. I describe how we bought that 9-unit apartment building. That was the first piece of real estate we ever owned. It was a little bit less than 2 years out of college when I bought it. But so if you haven't owned a home, a personal residence, I mean, if you've been renting, even if you have owned rental property, which applied to my wife and I, you can still be considered a first-time home buyer. So in our case, we owned this apartment building. We were still renting. When we bought our home 2 years later, we were considered first-time home buyers because we had been renting after getting out of college. It just so happened that we bought that 9-unit apartment building. It was there was a lot of opportunity at that time to buy rental properties on the cheap because there had been a crash. So if you also you can attain first-time home buyer status if you've been living in a mobile home, even if you owned the mobile home. This is not considered a permanent residence because it does not have a permanent foundation. So if you haven't owned a home for 36 months, even if you've been renting, if you own rental property that you're not living in, or if you live in a mobile home, you can attain first-time home buyer status. A lot of cool things happen if you're a first-time home buyer. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the market right now that helps even if you're not a first-time home buyer. But this is especially cool if you have first-time home buyer status. So let's assume you're buying your first place, a starter home, generally which is like a 2-bed, 1-bath, or maybe 2-bed, 2-bath place, a condo, a townhome, or a small single-family home. Generally, when you're starting out, when you're just starting your career and you're buying your first place, maybe a condo, a townhouse, or a small single-family home, you're generally not buying a 5-bedroom, 4-bath place on a huge lot. You're generally buying a starter home that's smaller, that's more affordable. 25% of home sales last year were first-time home buyers buying this type of property. So a quarter of the sales from last year were starter homes. So there are low down payment programs. Some of these are for first-time home buyer status. One of them is for veterans. So if you have first-time home buyer status, you can qualify for 3.5% down payment through the FHA. You can get 3% down payment through Fannie Mae. Now, if you think about that, 3% down, let's assume you're looking at a $100,000 home in the Midwest. You're literally talking about $3,000 down payment to get into your first home. There are homes, there are homes in the Midwest that sell for $100,000. But every $100,000 in home value, it's only $3,000 in down payment money you need to come up with. So now if you're a veteran, there are 0% down payment loans available for veterans. Not only that, there's no private mortgage insurance. There's no PMI if you're a veteran, and you don't have to have a minimum credit score to get a VA loan. 0% down, no PMI, no minimum credit score for veterans to get into a starter home. So starter home, this is one of the reasons that I'm making this video, because starter home inventory has recovered to pre-pandemic levels from 5 years ago when they were higher than, because they dropped because people were relocating when work from home became a thing, and work from home is sort of declining. So starter home inventory around the country has recovered to pre-pandemic levels. And that's true even though the cost of labor and land and materials has been inflated, has been rising 4 times faster than inflation. So despite that, starter home inventory is recovering. It has recovered a great deal already. So if you're a first-time home buyer getting into your first place, you can get into it pretty darn easily. When my wife and I bought our place, we actually did not take advantage of the low down payment. I think it's because we wanted, our goal was to have the lowest monthly mortgage payment possible. So I think we put down more than this. But the point is, you qualify for these if you don't have a lot of money. It's not necessarily an impediment to getting into your first home, these low down payment programs. So you're buying a starter home, you're a first-time buyer status with a low down payment. There are a lot of options throughout the country. These are just some of the options. Miami, Florida. I lived there when I was a kid. My mom's side of the family is from Coral Gables. I lived there for a time. Really nice place to live. Great weather. There are 31,000 starter homes available in the Miami area. The median home price is $375,000. So that's about $400,000. So for a 3% down Fannie Mae, you're talking a $12,000 down payment to get into the median price starter home in Miami. And who wouldn't want to live in Florida? No state income tax. The weather is great there. This is the best weather in the country right now. If you look on weather.com, if you look at the national temperatures, you will you'll notice that Florida's got like the best weather in the country during the winter. I live there. It's a great place to live. Houston, Texas has 9,000 starter homes available. The median home price is only $250K. So that is at 3% down for a Fannie Mae down payment. That's $7,500 down payment. That's all. That's all you need to be able to buy a starter home. And there's a lot to choose from in the Houston area. Atlanta, Georgia, there are 7,500 starter homes in inventory available. The median home price, $280,000. Tampa, another Florida location, has 9,400 starter homes. 309,000 median home price. Lots to choose from. This is a little further north from Miami, but let's see here. Tampa is near West Coast. Tampa's the west coast of Florida, close to Sarasota and St. Petersburg. So these are like warm weather locations. Miami, Houston, a little bit less so. Atlanta's a little further north, but Tampa and Phoenix. I went to college for a while in Phoenix. There are 6,000 starter homes. The median home price is $375,000. So again, you're talking less than a $12,000 down payment for a Fannie Mae loan, 3% down in Phoenix. Phoenix is a great city. The temperatures, it's a very moderate climate in the winter, not a lot of rain. And I really enjoyed living there. During the time I was living there, I actually got hired out of college to go to work in Silicon Valley after I finished. But Dallas, Texas, another nice area location. There are 6,800 starter homes. The median home price is $280,000. So there are a lot more. There are 3,500 starter homes in Rochester, New York, if you like colder climates. Median home price is only $130,000 in Rochester, New York. So you're talking about less than $5,000 for a down payment with a Fannie Mae loan in Rochester, New York. So, and by the way, for starter homes, you know, these are going to be more affordable than the typical home in the United States, because most of these median home prices, $375,000, $250,000, $280,000, $309,000, $375,000. So the median home price for all the homes available in the U.S. right now is $415,000. So these homes, and there's a lot to choose from. Look, 31,000 starter homes available in Miami. You know, it's hard to beat that with these low down payment loans. Okay, so let me just talk about the loan rates that are available right now. For 15-year loans, 5.95%, less than 6% loan if you have a 15-year mortgage. For the traditional 30-year mortgage, 6.81%. For a jumbo home, which means a home price over $806,500, mortgage rates are about 7.13% right now. So I have to tell you that even though people are bitching about the high interest rates. When my wife and I bought our first home, not that apartment building, a couple years later when we bought that first home, our interest rate was 9%, right? And the interest rate for the 9-unit apartment building was more than that. It was higher than that. So these are good interest rates. It may not seem like that, but that's just because people got spoiled. They got acclimated to the 3% mortgage loans over several years after that 2008 and 9 crash. These are really, really good rates. I mean, our parents, they had rates 18, 19, 20% for mortgage loans, supposedly. I mean, if you look back in history, that's what was going on back in those days. So there's a lot to be hopeful for. If you're a first-time home buyer, you qualify for these loan down payment loans. If you're a veteran, you don't even need to be a first-time home buyer. You qualify for a zero down loan. So, and if you're buying in a new area, if you're moving to Florida or Texas or Arizona, there's a lot of starter home inventory on the market right now. So this is a great time to get an affordable home. Because here's the cool thing. Once you buy your first home, it appreciates in value. And it allows you a few years later to either turn that home into a rental and buy your next one, or sell your first starter home and move up into something, a bigger home if you're starting a family. Because the first starter home appreciates in value, and then when you sell it, you have a much bigger down payment for your next home if you're having kids and raising a family. So. But the key is to get on the train, get started with the first, a first smaller home, just to get things rolling, because real estate tends to go up in value over time. So I want to mention a couple things about some down payment assistance programs. In a lot of states, I would put it this way: if you're considering moving to a state, go to the web, go to the internet, and search for that state's name. Down payment assistance programs, DPA programs. Most states right now are offering down payment assistance programs, including some of these states. In Arizona and Miami, in Florida, you can get up to $30,000 in some areas down payment assistance to buy a home. So again, we were talking about 3% down here with Fannie Mae loans. We were talking about under $10,000 to get into some of these areas to buy that first place. So there are down payment assistance programs. They range in value, and you have to check the area you're moving into to see what's available, because they're generally funded by the local governments there. And also employers have down payment assistance programs. Not all employers, but you can check with your employer to see if they offer down payment assistance programs. Now, the reason these are popping up, the reason these down payment assistance programs have started to appear is because for a while there, during the COVID situation, there was a lot of home buying, and it became harder to find a home. But the inventory is picking up. There's a lot more home inventory right now compared to the COVID period. And but there are a lot of down payment assistance programs. As an example, the Arizona, there's a down payment assistance program in Arizona. You're eligible to receive up to $30,000 down payment assistance. If your income is 80% or below the median income for that area. In other parts of Arizona, there are $20,000 down payment assistance programs available. And these are offered through the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department. So if you're thinking about Phoenix or other parts of Arizona, you would reach out to HUD. I think their website is hud.gov, HUD.gov, and ask what the down payment assistance programs are for Arizona. The same is true in Florida. Florida has down payment assistance programs. In Hillsborough County in Florida, $30,000 down payment assistance. In Brevard County, $15,000 down payment assistance. $20,000 in Clay County, $10,000 down payment assistance in Duval County. So check the area you're moving into for down payment assistance programs to make it easier to get into your first home. There are also federal tax incentives. First-time homebuyer tax credit is up to $15,000. The federal government also offers first-time homebuyer savings accounts where you can save for a home with tax-free earnings. It's a tax credit. So there's a lot of ways to get into your first home. And right now, there is a ton of starter home inventory in a lot of different parts of the country. So these are the warm weather areas. A lot of people like moving to warmer weather areas. but it's kind of true all over the country that starter homes, the inventory has really spiked compared to the COVID days. So there's a lot of good news for new home buyers. If you're just getting into the market, you should be optimistic. These interest rates, people think these interest rates are high. They're not high. I mean, we were paying 9% when we bought our first home. We were able to afford that payment, that monthly payment, and so you guys are looking at only 6.81% on a 30-year fixed loan. If we had been able to get a 6.81% loan back when we started, boy, would we have jumped at that, because we didn't have any choice. 9% was about the best we could do. So I wish you guys luck if you're looking at getting into a new home. If you have any questions about where the data came from, just post a question in the comments and I'll try to get to that. But I want to thank everyone for watching and have a great day.